Alrighty, good morning, boys. Mission quest number 2? I think that's what we're doing. Yeah, mission quest number 2. And from what I was reading, it looks like they brought back the 7 fight when she initially got her FR. And this fight is a... I wouldn't say it's very eventful. I would actually say it's pretty boring of a fight. But, honestly, every now and then, it's perfectly fine to have a fight like this, just because, you know, every fight being a tough one, it could be a little draining on people, and I understand that. You know. Sometimes you just want to relax and just beat the boss up, let him take a bunch of turns, while you just enjoy your day. And you know what? I can respect that. We didn't bring Maria for the bow requirement. We do need 2 fists and a bow, and I think Maria's perfect for a fight like this. Just because her trap, you know, along with off-turn healing, can also just provide some good amounts of support, because as you can see, we're doing like no damage to these guys, and I don't have an Ultima fist weapon, so our damage is going to be pretty suboptimal compared to a lot of other runs, but we should be able to make it through regardless. Because Rubicante, you know, he is no slouch. He's a very good unit. But one of the units that I do regret not building around the time where his BT and his FR did debut, I'm not sure if he's been rerun since. Like, I have everything but his BT, so I might have to give him BT tokens at some point if he doesn't get rerun in the near future. But yeah, the strategy of this fight is very simple. We're just going to let the bosses act. We're going to try and build the gauge up as much as we can. Echo a little bit with Tifa, and then just hope that we could get to her burst phase in time to just nuke everything. Very simple plan. But you know, sometimes simple is the best. And of course, we did bring the Aerith friend. It's been nice bringing the friends back. I'm like, finally, the friend unit. For so long, I feel like we've had to ignore them, just because, you know, they don't fulfill mission requirements, and that can feel pretty bad. Where it's like, oh man, you know, that extra pull ticket. I think it's like what, equivalent to maybe 5k gems, which isn't like that much in the grand scheme of things, especially if it's for a unit like you don't want. But I think a lot of people just like the idea of like, oh man, that's a, you know, a whole free pull, free guaranteed, you know, a 5-star weapon. That could be a BT or an FR or something, you know. And I understand that. I wouldn't want to miss out on that either, honestly. I think we're gonna have just one more Absorb Lazar, but that should be fine. Yeah, not having Rubicante's FR here is gonna hurt just a little bit, but we should be fine. We'd bring the Gabranth call, just because his is actually 6 turns, which is pretty good. Like, we don't want to bring too many, or we didn't want to bring debuffing calls, even though he is like technically a debuffing call. But it does give like the party an effect for 6 turns, where like it raises their damage. I believe it's like I think it's 20% attack, 10% HP damage up. I don't remember off the top of my head if that's what it is, but I do know it lasts a little bit. And his debuffs aren't that bad because they are brave poison. So if these little mosquitoes tend to boost their brave on their turn, we should be able to bring that down. Along with Maria's trap just in general. Gonna help out with the gauge there. Also, why I wanted to bring her, just because this fight is pretty offensive, or these 2-fist units are pretty offensive, and Maria's just a decent support. Very decent. She's actually really good for support. And she'll be good with synergizing with Rubicante's FI. Because building up that 5% every turn, you know, it all adds up. It all adds up. Especially with how many turns these guys are going to be taking. And Maria's LD trap lasts for 10 turns, which is a ridiculous amount. Like, Furion's also lasts for 10 turns, I believe, but he's a sword, so we can't bring him along because the mission requirement requires 3 fists. I don't think we're going to need any more fist units for the rest of this mission quest, just because there aren't that many. You know, like, I was looking through it and I think there's like 14 or something. There's not too many fist units, so I'd be surprised if they threw more fist quests at us. I think they're going to want to cover the spectrum of how many we got, and having a bow here is actually perfectly fine, just because Maria gets to flex her a little bit with her LD trap. You know, brave control, turn control, whatever you want to call it. I think on Tifa's turn we actually want to get her BT effect up, because those BT effects do start to you start to notice the difference, especially in fights like this with very high defense units. Like when you have multiple BT effects, you start hitting your caps no problem. But against fights like this, where the enemies are fairly tanky, you know, you definitely start to see like, oh man, my damage is nowhere near as what I feel like it should be for units of this, you know, meta, quote unquote, of this tier. And I think just adding this one BT effect is probably going to add a lot. Let's go ahead and add it. We did also bring the Chocobo summon just because I did hear the summons are still bugged. So, you know, I'm not going to touch any of that. Oh, actually, I don't think I got Fusuya call up on Tifa either. I'll probably do that before I enter her burst phase. Because the whole idea is we're just going to let this gauge ramp up like crazy. And then like on 6 turns left of the gauge, we're just going to go ahead and Tifa BT phase. Unfortunately, Maria doesn't have Echo, so we are going to need to plan this out just a little bit. Rubicante and Tifa do have Echo, so that's nice at least. Yeah, not being able to see, you know, the turn orders. This is a very... When you bring Ruby to this fight, it's a very boring fight, not gonna lie. But there's a... That's the thing with the off-turn comps too. Like, some people really enjoy these kind of team comps. Like, yeah, just let the boss take a bunch of turns, and you can just go chill, make a sandwich, come back and fight stuff. And to me, I don't know, I feel like that's kind of boring. Where it's like, I like pressing buttons. Maybe it's my monkey brain, where I'm just like, button, do big number. I like button. Maybe it's my monkey brain talking there, but I feel like, you know, fight's engaging when I actually get to press something. I get to press a button. That seems fun. We're just gonna refresh the LD trap just because these guys are gonna take a lot of turns. And I think this is probably just Maria's most damaging button anyway. Unfortunately, she doesn't have Echo yet. Oh man, I wonder what they're gonna give her for BT. I know her FR is very underwhelming for a lot of people. And like, especially when you compare it to a character like Minwoo, or who like gets 10% off of off-turn holy just in, you know, for every tick. Getting 2% per heal is actually kind of annoying. Like, I feel like I knew what they were going for. It's like, get it? Final Fantasy 2, all, you know, all those off-turn Final Fantasy 2 characters heal, 2%? And a lot of people are like, alright, but is it good? You know, I feel like that's what's probably happened there, but, you know. I can appreciate the nice meme. Oh man, we're definitely going to be hitting our cap on our HP damage bonus soon. Then Maria and Ruby actually pair quite nicely together, just because Ruby can't fall below a certain percent under his FR time. I do believe like he heals up the 50% on his turns, and then, you know, having the, I think it's the Minwoo call I have on him. Just him healing for weakness damage helps a lot, because it basically makes him immortal. He's also susceptible to like 2 HP attacks, like if there's doubles. But there aren't too many fights that feature that, from what I've noticed. And when there are, you just bring some heavier mitigation. Or like, you just find some other ways to deal with the boss attacks. There's more than one way to just, you know, tank a boss. You could just outright paralyze them sometimes. You can blind them. There's a lot of cool things you can do. Unfortunate, a character like Kamari isn't exactly super great in terms of damage output, because I do find his blind super useful. And you know, if he could just contribute a little more, it'd be nice. These days, with how busted support and offensive units are, I feel like having the third utility slot would be fine. But just the lacking Echo, man. We just, I think maybe we're too perfectionist as players. Maybe that's just me projecting. Because having a good FR, or having a good force time setup, it just feels so good, man. You know? I feel like Maria's trap has done more to the other mosquitoes than it has to the main boss. You guys are definitely acting more, I feel. We're getting 1 million a tick on that, though. That's pretty good. There are no ultimate weapons on this team, so, you know, the damage isn't as high as you're probably used to from these units. Especially Rubicante, no BT effect, and no ultimate weapon. I don't know if I even have him blued. I do know in terms of like high armor for like purple tokens, I am a little low on those. So I do try and, you know, prioritize who gets what. Like particularly, like if you have the attack armor, I feel like that's what I'll usually go for. Like the support armors aren't that impactful from what I've noticed. At least in my experience. Now I could be dead wrong. Like the numbers are numbers, you know. My opinion isn't gonna change numbers. But I've always just gone for like if the unit has like an attack aura or something, I usually tend to buff that up. Finally, an off-turn attack on the boss. Let's go for the Echo. Let's see how much this does, because this boss, you know, is fairly tanky. Luckily, a character like Maria, also a support unit, you know, can help us get through this very defensive boss. What does this see? He has a lot of bravery. That would probably be threatening if Rubicante, you know, wasn't a ridiculous take. Like, I think it's his force effect that does it, right? Where, like, he can't fall below... Or if he falls below a certain amount, he always heals half of it back. It's ridiculous. I probably could have just went into a Tifa burst phase there just to end the fight. That probably would have been a better idea. I think what we can do is we could probably summon and then just spam her skill 1. Or not her skill 1, her skill 2. And then just go ham like that. Probably not a bad idea. We might do that actually just to get this rolling. We are on a little bit of a watch though, just because the summons, like even Chocobo, can crash. I've seen runs where like people have been running their summons no problem, and we don't have to worry about HP count in this fight, luckily. Just because the mission requirements are like 2 fists, 1 bow, and clear without KO, so you don't actually have to worry about your health as long as you could revive people. There have been runs where like, you know, you just revive your dead teammates, let Rubicante solo, and then during the last few turns like revive with Eiko or something. So, you know, that is also a viable strat. Yeah, I think there's no real point in waiting. Let's just go ahead and choke a bow. Hopefully this doesn't crash. I haven't really had a crash with Chocobo on me though, so we should be fine. Okay, perfect. I was just like, did I just jinx it? Like, as I pressed the serial shot, I was like, oh god, maybe I jinxed it. Oh man, now my PC is running as slow as this fight. But this should be over. This should be over. Rubicante, you know, off-turn FR did its job. Well done. Now we can go ahead and spam Battle Cry and win the fight. And it should be as simple as that, honestly. I might activate Fusoya Call, which might seem a little wasteful, but I think the Brave gains on it is actually going to make enough of a difference on Tifa. Just so we could hit a ridiculous cap. Especially because we're going to go for the EX right here. We're just going to launch him. Yeah, I should have activated this sooner. Oh, well. Fight's basically over, I think. Tifa is a monster. Like, I do believe if you have her with no support here and no ultimate weapon, it could get a little hard. Because, you know, as you can see, these guys aren't exactly sponges. They can take a little. You know, they're fairly sturdy for a mosquito. I'm gonna do this just to refresh the EX buff and to get a big ass launch. And this guy should melt away fairly quickly. Yeah, look at how much more damage we're doing now. Look at all this bravery. That's what we wanted to see. $28 million? And I think Tifa's FR Echo should do it. Let's go ahead and spam LD some more. Yeah, unfortunate that the regular summons haven't been fixed yet. They would probably help a lot for fights like this, where the the extra damage is actually kind of useful. Angry. Let's go for the transform HP. Look at all those brave kings. That's what we like to see. Just Tifa beating some ass. Battle cry. Man, it's so much. I think we're just barely gonna get the buzzer beater here, but I think the FR attack is actually gonna be just ridiculous amounts of damage. I think this should be over. I'd be surprised if it isn't over, honestly. Yeah, I think the Busoya call probably made a lot of a difference there. Oh, I think he's actually gonna live. 4%? 31 million? Yeah, this fight is fairly tanky. Fairly tanky. What's I don't remember if Soul Scald is more damaging than his other attacks, but we're just gonna do it. 1%. 1%. The other beetle just straight up died. But we don't have to worry about that bravery just because Haya is going to come in and brave control. Where is our lucky battle cry? Oh, did Rem wear off on Maria? I guess it did. Well, luckily, there's one turn left on that BT effect. So he should be dead here. I'd be surprised if he lives this. Holy cow, how much HP do you have? He had just around, you know, I think double digits there. Well, that's done. A little crusty without the ultimate weapon here, but it's fine. Like, no BT effects on Rubicante either, but it's, as we can see, it's doable, it's doable. You know, I refuse to dismantle my ultimate weapon gun. It's probably the weapon I'm probably going to be using the least, but I like Balthier, so no, I'm keeping it. But anyways, boys, that's the run. You know, Rubicante, very good, very good. You should definitely use him for this fight. Take it easy.